right now, everything's so comfortable, and it shouldn't be. You've got the car, you've got a nice social circle, you've got the girls in your life that you want, you've got the income, which is a position that I do find myself in, to be honest. It's like, okay, well, why would I do it? Why would I do more work? And I might even put myself in a few positions that I'm slightly uncomfortable with to improve my life. The car has blown up, the engine's just completely gone, right? Car had to be scrapped for basically nothing, because it was more to replace, there was more to repair than it was to replace, and it wasn't the best car anyway. If I've edited this video together properly, you'll have seen footage from around about 2 or 3 months ago of me sat in this very spot. In that video, I was speaking about how life was, and I spoke about the fact that not a lot of stuff felt challenging. And it's funny because sometimes when you need a big change, but you're not willing to go for one, life throws an obstacle in your way, which almost makes it mandatory to improve. That's exactly what I've seen in the past couple months, and I want to share my findings with you because a video like this is going in my sort of personal development playlist. It's not necessarily me talking about a direct fact, it's just me speaking about my opinions and experience over, well, the last about 3 months. So to cut a long story short, you can watch some of those videos if you want. At that time, about July, a lot was going on. In the beginning of July, I just turned 21, and that felt like a big milestone. Despite that though, it didn't really feel like much was actually going on. You know, I'd always at that point only run my own businesses, so it was like, it's sort of something that you take for granted, and because of that your eye kind of slips off the ball. Money was alright, everything in life was fine, but how fast things can change. As I showed on the intro for this video, the pretense, just like what, I think it was like 10-15 days later, my car blew up. To the point where it was quite a cheap car, right? 2008. So the cost to fix it would have been basically more than it would have been to get a new car. So I ended up getting a new car. So at that point, the financial stability that I felt like I had, because bear in mind I had a lot in savings, true, but cars aren't cheap. You know, it wasn't cheap to get rid of the old one. It wasn't cheap to get the new one. If you're a long-term viewer, you might be wondering, well, what happened to my eBay sales and my income? Well, the truth is, whilst I was still making sales, I took my eye off the ball that much, I wasn't listing very much, and I wasn't selling very many units. I might have been selling maybe £500 to £2,000 worth of revenue a month, which simply wasn't enough to cover my living costs, but perhaps that's a little bit of context as to what happened to my eBay sales. Back to the video. And the new one's more expensive to run, but I'll get to that all in a minute. This is just literally me explaining my story, giving you a bit of my life, rather than, you know, a specific topic. So it's going to be a little bit more, it's just me speaking, right? No script, no topic. So yeah, I got a new car, and you know, it's not just the car. It wasn't just the car. The car may have been the big thing, it may have been the physical symbol of a complacency in life that led me to a point where things just weren't great. So at the same time, a lot of my friends were either moving away from university due to graduation, or mainly just stuff like that, right? So literally at the same time, or a similar sort of time, all of the friends, and I mean quite a good few friends, enough friends to have someone to hang out with every single day. I'm not saying I lost those friendships, but obviously when people move back to their towns from their university town, you're not going to be able to stay in touch every day, right? If you've got people who live in Scotland and London, and some even abroad, it's going to be very, very difficult to see them, obviously, at the same intervals or frequencies that you could have before. You know, before it could have been like, oh, let's just go grab a drink or whatever, or you know, that ceased to be the case after about July with a good number of friends. So yeah, I didn't lose the connections, or I didn't lose the friendships, but I did lose the connections in a way. What else? Like I say, the money situation got pretty bad, so it left me in a bit of a weird position, because again, due to complacency, I kind of let all my businesses dry off a little bit. They sort of died out slightly, including YouTube at that time. And so I found myself in a position where I didn't have that much money at all. I had a car which was, again, this was kind of my own stupid mistake. Not even mistake, because I'm glad that I did it, but I'll get to that in a second. A car that at the time was more expensive to run than what I could afford. The friendships weren't there. The businesses felt a little bit more shaky than what they normally would. It felt like a difficult time. And that's only going through half of it, right? And even then, like, come a couple of weeks later, I was faced with a big illness. And again, I don't necessarily want to go into all of the details just to save some time, but I had a lot of illnesses when I was a lot younger. So a consequence of that, unfortunately, is when I get ill, even from like a small cold, it can be a lot worse than what it could be for your average person. We've got the train going behind in the background, but it's not too loud. Hopefully the audio quality on this is quite alright. Yeah, so illness, that obviously brings with it its own problems. When you are seriously ill, it's a lot more difficult to, say, go out on the bike like I obviously am now. Especially when you tie that in with winter. So I found myself in a position where it's actually funny to say looking back, and this is just me explaining the context. That video that I made literally a couple of weeks in advance, or a couple of weeks before, everything that I spoke about there was now untrue. The friends were not there. The connections were, like, but you know what I mean? The friends weren't there. The money wasn't there. The car wasn't there. Funny how it works, eh? But no, I did spend about a week or so, and again, the car was probably the biggest physical symbol of a change in times, because it's something very easy to quantify. And I was like, damn, everything's gone downhill. So at this point, I was pretty lost, but I had an understanding of a few things. Number one, I needed money to live on, so that was a non-negotiable. Friends and whatever, yeah, you want friends, but obviously that's a little bit different. Money is a non-negotiable. I needed to get my money up. And again, if I could make friends and meet people in the process and all that sort of stuff and build my physical health to be even stronger, great. And I realised this. I realised, right. And this also came with another moment. So this was one of the moments where I was trying to cheer myself up. And I was in the city centre, Manchester city centre. And I saw this car, some supercar, I can't remember what type it is. But the point was this. I looked at it and I thought, so maybe he's older, maybe he's not. But this guy doesn't look that much older than me. So this idea that I had in my head at the time of, oh, you'll figure it out. Yeah, you will. But there's people crushing that lifestyle now. Or at least around your age. Maybe even a couple of years older. But if you're not doing anything, you're not on the trajectory to hit that. So I was like, okay, everything that I had previously was great. For the age that I was at, right? Coming into an adult like I was, and again, seeing how fast your financial standing can change, that was a huge wake-up call, because I realised this idea of financial stability that I had, having like 10, 20 grand in the bank, it's not realistic, right? It's not realistic. The small amount of money that I was making, again, due to my businesses kind of drying up because of, quite frankly, my own laziness, it wasn't enough. And I saw an opportunity, fortunately for me, and I just took it by both hands. And by the way, this might sound like just me ranting. It is. I'm not going to lie. A video like this, I don't know if it's... In fact, no, it's probably not going to be as popular as any of my others, but I'm just explaining my story. It's going to be a rant, it's going to be a long video, and again, maybe I'm just complaining about my issues. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to give a bit of context so that you guys will kind of know. I know a lot of you guys want to keep updated in my personal story, because I've heard that in the comment section. I'm letting you know a little bit about that here. So, yeah, I was just sat there at this point looking around like, damn, how fast a life can change, eh? And I'd run my businesses, you know, since I was about 13, so it kind of gotten to a point where at age 21, you've had the best part of 10 years. The idea of work or any of these other challenges seems far away, because you've not done it, you've not needed to do it, because you've been able to sustain your own sort of life through your own ventures. Anyway, so at this point, I had two choices. I could do what a lot of people do, sadly, and it is sad that they do this. I could have given up, right? So I could have just closed the door on this part of the adventure. You know, we had fun, we went to some good places, and this is what most people do. And I'm not saying this to insult anybody. Do whatever you want. I am not any kind of person to judge. I don't want to judge. I don't need to judge. I'm just explaining my situation. Most people, they get to this age, 21, 22, 23, they start graduating, their friends start graduating, they settle down into a job, and then life becomes pretty stable. Now, for me to get stable at that age, or at that point, it would imply that I would be happy with the position that I was in. And to be honest, I wasn't, right? I wasn't happy with that trajectory. I was ready for an office job or all of these boring paths that I always speak against. But at that point, if I didn't pick stuff up, that would have been my only option. Because what else are you going to do, right? Anyway, so I took some time to reflect. And again, I decided, no, I'm not going to give up. I really looked around me and thought, right, so like it or not, my friends, we're not going to be able to hang out as much. We can still hang out, we can still have good days, but most of my friends are now either working, even if they're in my town, they're working full time. The other half, or the other majority, whatever, they are back home, wherever that is. Could be halfway around the world, could be halfway around the country. I met a lot of people, we had a lot of good times. So that was a window that was closed. Not permanently, but we weren't going to live the same. And so then I moved on to money, right? Money is the easiest way to fix most of my problems at this stage. Like, you know, the car, if it breaks, I'd have been finished, so I needed more money. Rent needed paying for the next year. I had my rent covered until 2025, and I still do. So, yeah, that's still good for like the next 6-7 months, but eventually it was going to need paying off, right? And all these other costs are going to need paying off. So I was like, yeah, I need to get the money up. So I went straight about getting a job. And I've said this, you know, I've said this a few times recently. It took over 250 applications to find a job. And I know some of you guys are going to think that's because you went for a high-skilled, high-pay. No, I was looking for minimum wage. Bear in mind, guys, don't know what they're doing there. Bear in mind, guys, apologies for the noise. To be fair, when I get going with something and I'm stuck into it, I'm stuck into it. And obviously at this stage, I was stuck into this idea. I was going to get the money up and I was going to do it however I could. So if that meant that I was going to give up hours of my day to work, fine. I'd work anywhere. Give me a job in a shop, give me a job in a warehouse, give me a job in a restaurant. I don't care, right? These are not high-skilled jobs. Eventually, I landed on something in a shop and, well, for the first month of that, I was working all the hours that I could. All the hours that I could. And bear in mind, at this point, yes, I was still working on my businesses. We're going to get to all this in a minute. But that wasn't taking very long. Even if I was doing 50 listens a day, bear in mind at this point, I would say, to be honest, I was pretty depressed. I'm not even going to lie. At this point, I was pretty depressed, so I had nothing else to kind of work towards, if that makes sense. And because of that, I was straight on it. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever gotten to the point where you're that miserable, rightly or wrongly, where you don't want to do anything else. And what I mean by that is, right, I don't want to do anything, so I might as well do something that's going to help me. If I don't want to do anything, let's at least do something good. So if that means 6 hours on eBay, 8 hours at work, 2 hours filming videos, great. Who cares? We've got nothing else to do, no point in doing anything else anyway. So for the first month or so, I was working all the hours that I could, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy it. The world of work opened up my eyes to a challenge. Oh, so I decided to move spots. That factory noise was just getting on my nerves. However, we've come to a spot which is busier than I remembered, as we've got a road behind us. Anyway, we're going to film this video. I'm a bit out of breath because I had to climb up a massive hill, but you know what? This is the unscripted sort of videos that you guys subscribe for. Back on topic though, yeah, I got into the world of work, and for the first time in my adult life, since school obviously, I saw a certain way of living. Like, I mean, you guys know work, right? You all know work. Things like, I know it's the rules, but oh, if you're 1 minute late, you get docked like 15 minutes of pay, or stuff like you can't play on your phone, or stuff like you can't even sit and just lean, you know, just forwards, just sit forwards, even if there's no customers in the place. And on top of that, you're giving up hours of your time every day. Obviously, you are getting paid for it, so that is how it sort of works itself out. But I'm 21, and like I say, I was working every shift I could. I didn't really care. But even at that point, I was still trying to keep physically well. And again, not to go into a very, very complex and long story, I've got a lot of like body pain because I have a lot of arthritis, especially in my back. And when you finish a big day's work, and bear in mind, like I say, considering that, everything's cramping, everything's in pain. I'm like, yeah, how am I going to do this for the next 50, 60 years, whatever, even if it's just 40 years, even if it's 30, how am I going to be expected to do this for the foreseeable future? And I know some people will say easier jobs where you can sit down. Same sort of thing, eh? I mean, I'm still going to have to give up 40 hours a week or more. But at the same time, it did help me get out of my mess. So what I'm trying to say here is, for the first month, or 2, or even 3. No, I say 2 because we're only nearing 3 now. For the first month or 2, I really didn't like it. Like I say, I was doing very many days, as many days as I could get, and my body was aching. My mind had a big, I guess you could call it sort of culture shock from going from the relaxing culture or the work for yourself culture to the office culture or the company culture. Big change, big shock to the system, to the mind, and to the body even. So I was shocked. Eventually though, I got enough money from the job that whilst I still was going to work it, I realised it wasn't a long-term plan. Like, maybe I could do it going forwards, but I made enough money from my businesses and from my job as well, to the point where I was making at least £3,000, maybe even £4,000 a month profit from all streams. And at that point I was like, okay, so I did have about £2,000 saved up initially, so now I've got 6. We're going to still keep saving, but with the rate of money that I'm making online, I'm not straining my body or my mind physically or mentally at all. So I'll pick up like 1-2 days a week, right? That's all I need to do, to be honest. So now I do 1 to 2 days a week. It's a lot more enjoyable. I can actually enjoy the job. So let's say if it's a weekend, which it usually is, because obviously in a shop it's going to be your busiest time, it's chill. It's really chill. There's a lot of customers to serve, but as you guys can probably tell, I like talking to people. I don't claim I'm always the best at it, but I do like talking to people. We have a good time, and obviously there's a lot of co-workers. You meet some good people, so I'm not going to complain. It was just a frequency that I was initially doing it at that I didn't like. It wasn't good for me personally. And again, a lot of people say stuff like that, but then they've got no plan. My plan was just to grind out my businesses. I started on eBay. That was my first one that I started grinding out, because out of all of the businesses that I've learned, and I've said this before on the channel, I already had an established eBay account, even if I let it slip a little bit. I knew what I was doing, and I think unlike YouTube, right? So take YouTube. This channel, I've been uploading at least once a day for the past a month, let's say. And realistically, it's more like 3 to 4, sometimes 5 times a day. That's great, but the consequence of that is I've put in over a year's worth of videos at this point, and we're only at 2,500 subscribers, which is great, like, but if I'm honest with you guys, that makes me about £200 a month, which, I'm not trying to be rude or funny or anything, but in the real world, that's nothing, is it? It's a nice bit of extra, but it's not really anything. So, eBay was the first one. I knew it was the easiest. I grinded out the eBay just every single day, right? 20 listings, 30 listings, 50 listings. Like I say, at this point, I was not feeling very great in myself. I had nothing else to do. I had nothing else to look forward to. So why not at least try and make some money, eh? And that's what I did. So I was listing so many items. We got a lot of sales, and we still do. Today I've had over 500 and I think probably over £600 worth of sales. And the same was true for yesterday, and the same was true for the day before. We've made about £2,500 worth of sales this week, which is great, and that's where we're getting to now. But initially that wasn't the case. And you know, we had to pick up slowly. I've documented all of this on my videos, but it was a real wake-up call, because again, I was broke basically, and I had bills to pay. And this is one of the reasons, going back to what I said at the start, I'm so glad I bought the car that I did. It's old, so it's more, it breaks more frequently, although it doesn't break as frequently as my last car. It is a real gas guzzler, to be honest. We're looking at single-digit MPGs very often. But I'm still glad I bought it, because it's a car that I've always wanted, and because of that, nothing was going to take it away from me, right? Unless it got crashed or written off or anything like that, I wasn't going to lose this car. So if that meant that I needed to have X amount of money for repairs and maintenance, I was going to get that money. And I was glad that I bought this expensive car, because it kind of proved a point to me about abundance mindset. Do it anyway, and it will come. And obviously it did, you know, we got there in the end. We're able to afford the car very, very easily now. It's just a small expense. Even if anything major goes wrong on it, like, I'm not going to be happy, but it's fine. So I started out grinding the eBay, just to go back to that point. And once I got that up to a point, it's like I always say about business. Business is kind of like language learning, which sounds stupid, but hear me out. You don't start out, if you're going to learn even multiple languages, by learning, I don't know, Greek, Mandarin, and French at the same time. Because if you do all three, you're probably going to get confused. Your collective efforts are probably not going to go as far. And that was my approach to business. I could have done multiple businesses at once, but I really just focused in on eBay because I knew it'd work, or I thought it'd work as well as I could make it. And it did. So now that I've got that up to speed, or when it was coming up to speed about last month, I was like, right, great. This is a great base income, even if it is up to 10 grand a month, let's say profit, let's say if it was. But you're still working within the rules of eBay. And going forwards into the future of what you want to see in your life, things like moving abroad, things like investments, things like being a full-time online moneymaker, so I'm not going to lie, it's not stable to have one income source. Because I've seen this happen in my life on multiple occasions. You think you're killing it, or maybe you even are, and maybe a trend changes. You know, let's say my videos that I make now, they're not popular anymore, and if that was my only income, I'm screwed. Or my eBay account. I've had it before where my eBay account got restricted. I explained that a long while ago. And when that happens, you don't want to be in a position where your income is zero. If you've got savings, it mitigates it a little bit, but why be in that place in the first point? So yeah, from there, my next thing was YouTube. YouTube for me is easy. It's very, very easy. I'm not going to lie, most of my videos don't require much editing, simply for the fact that I'm trying to keep it authentic. Some people make these big shows, and maybe I will in the future, when I've got time, when I've got a team for it, and when I've got the audience that, I don't know, matches the level of effort in a way. Because, to be honest, when you've got maybe 200-300 people watching a video, it may not make sense to spend a day editing it, right? So YouTube for me is easy. That was my next thing. And I decided I was going to make this work. Like, I've made YouTube work before in the past, I've explained this. And it's quite easy, but it's a lot of momentum to get going. So I decided, right, you have still got nothing to lose. And now you've cut back on your work, you've learnt two things. Number one, you've learnt how stressful and, well, unfulfilling work can be. So if you've got to work on something, at least work on something that's building your brand and working towards your goals. When I was working full time, it was to get myself some money coming in, enough to not have to worry all the time, right? And then when I started to scale back on that, I had a lot more choice because I had a lot more savings. Like I say, I had my living costs covered for the next year, and that's still the case. I had a lot more time to choose what I wanted to do. And I decided that I wanted to go back to projects that I enjoyed and projects that were going to make me some money. The YouTube that I make is, to me, fulfilling on two levels. To a small extent, but an increasing extent, to be fair. It does fulfill some of my financial needs. Makes me a little bit of money. But also, the biggest thing, I think, that you have with a channel like this is hearing the effects and help that you bring to others. It's like you're building a world of positivity. And that might sound a bit, you know, soft or whatever, but it's like you're building a circle of positivity. And you build a circle of positivity so strong, you can't fail. And I want to just reflect on what I said at the start of this video, or earlier on. I said that I felt pretty depressed like 2 months ago. And yeah, I'm not perfect now, but at the same time, I'm at a point where I feel like I've got that much going correct. It's momentum, right? It's momentum. I said this in that video 2 months ago, speaking about momentum. I feel like I'm building a positive momentum now. So, oh, and also I didn't even mention I've started going a bit harder on Amazon selling. I've not made any sales on Amazon yet, but just like how I teach on eBay, because I have a Patreon page as well, which makes me a small amount, but whatever. Just like I teach people on that, it's a 3-step process. My Amazon hasn't made any sales yet, but at the same point, step 1 is getting impressions. Yesterday I went from 0 to 180 impressions for the first time. Small goal maybe, but it's a start of something possibly. And bear in mind, right, my eBay alone covers all of my living costs, plus a lot. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Yes, I cut back on everything. Like I say, I used to go out with friends on big day trips and, you know, out to go get food and coffee. And yeah, it was a bit irresponsible, but I'm not gonna complain because you know what? In those years, those 2-3 years that we had with a lot of my good friends, no money can buy that. If you get what I mean, right? I would not trade that money. But let's say I spent 7,000. Let's say I spent 10 on all of the trips and stuff. I wouldn't rather have the money than have had the experiences. I've said this before. When all is said and done, we've only got each other, so I wouldn't trade it back. But at the same point, when this kind of new experience came around, I had a lot more ability to save, so a good proportion of my money went to savings. Like, yeah, I bought that new car that would have been so fun to drive. I barely drive it, even now. Not because I don't like it, not because I don't want to. I don't care, and I care about the car a lot, but I don't know if this is going to even make sense, right? I'm in the grind, so why would I care? I'm going to go driving it tonight. I'm making it a point, because for those who don't know, I am actually a big car fan, so I do go out for fun drives. Anyway, yeah, I don't care. I'm in the grind. Most days, most nights, I'm doing something. eBay, YouTube, Amazon, new businesses that I'm not yet speaking about, Patreon content, all this sort of stuff I'm working on behind the scenes all the time. Because I saw my life for what it was and for what it could have been. I was on a path to just complete failure. And I don't say this lightly. A path to complete failure. A job that I wouldn't have liked. A career that I wouldn't have been fulfilled by. No online businesses. Hope quickly diminishing. And I know it sounds very down, but I want to just bring you back to where I am now, because that was a lot of context. But let's talk about the current. So far we've spoken about how I got to where I was in a bad place. Now we're speaking about how I'm getting to where I was in a good place. Again, the new car was a big motivating factor. The free time and the sort of isolation to a degree was a big motivating factor. And realising that a job was exactly what I thought it would be. Again, in small doses, it's fine, it's fun. 1-2 days a week, easy, who cares? But 7 days a week, or 6 days a week, or 5 days a week, not going to be my cup of tea. So I was motivated to change. Anyway, let's speak about where I am now, because now I'm in a very, very different position. And I want to just run some statistics by you, some facts of my own numbers, just to prove this. Like I say, this week, I made £2,100 worth of eBay orders. Not all profit, but we might be looking at £600 profit, let's say. Obviously, I'm going to need to crunch the numbers to be exact, but let's say £600 profit. So right there, £600 a week, let's just say, for example, you're already roundabout, if not slightly above, the average UK national salary. eBay, no, just explain eBay. What else have we got going on? YouTube this month, I made £130, which is good, to be honest. Let's not lie, that is quite good. I've got 2,500 subscribers, that's pretty good. And also the momentum that we're seeing. So we're now at 2,400 subscribers, 2,400, whatever. That's a big milestone. More than 400 of you guys have joined in the past month. It's crazy. More and more of my videos are getting decent views. More and more subscribers are coming in every day. And again, this is just the reality of my life now. Again, I'm making more money from all different streams. And again, I know I've only just spoke about YouTube and eBay, but like I say, I've got Patreon, I've got other things that I'm not yet speaking about because they're very, very early stages. I've never made more money in my life, and bear in mind I'm still working, so I'm getting at least, I'd say, on the very, very low months, if I might do one day a week for a whole month, which is not very often, more like 2-3 days a week, I'm getting at least like between $250 and $750 a month from work. So my monthly income can be anywhere like £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 easily. Crazy, right? And early days, yeah, absolutely. But 2 months ago, I was broke. And to be honest, this is a life change. And what I mean by that is I'm getting out there, meeting more people. I'm doing more activities, more clubs, mixed in with people who are going to be on my level, who are going to be of my mindset. But the money point is a very clear one to point out. 2 months ago, I was broke. Now I've got more in savings than what I had before my car broke, and I thought I was doing okay. My mind is a lot more clear. My channel would have never grown to this level if I hadn't have had all of this. If I hadn't have had all this experience. I used to complain about the idea of a 9-to-5 or a job. I didn't know what it meant, right? And I look back at that guy at the start of the video. I know it's still me, but I look back at that guy. This guy is not me. We're fundamentally the same, but the experience has just changed the person so much that I can't relate. That guy had it so easy, and a lot of people would try cover up a video like that where they can now see that they're blatantly wrong. A lot of people would try ignore a video like that, pretend that they never published it, or just hide it away, right? Or delete it. I want to point this out because I want to be honest with you guys. I messed up. I got too complacent. I got lazy. I didn't understand what real life looked like. Because, like I say, my bills at that point were quite small. Then realising that you can just have a 10-15 grand bill. Yeah, you didn't have to necessarily get a new car. You could have had no car at all. You didn't have to buy a car in the first place. But you did what you did, and I don't regret it. I wouldn't have been in this enlightened position if I hadn't have. And that's what a soft life is, right? You never take any risk, you never take any chances. So my point is this: if it wasn't for the fact everything went wrong, I didn't even know. I didn't even know how fast financial positions can change. I didn't know how quick wealth could be destroyed. I didn't know how quick wealth could be built. I didn't know how it felt to clock in every day and hate it. I didn't know how the ache in my body felt. I didn't know. Yeah, I can go on for ages. All these different things that I just didn't know. I was 21 and I still am, but 2 months, and it's like it's not even the same person. And I know to you guys I might look the same. I might be talking the same. I might still sound extremely overprivileged, and probably I am. But think about it now, right? I needed money. Money was the one thing that I needed the most because, again, money's a non-negotiable. Friends, a bit more negotiable. Connections, you want them all, like, but you don't necessarily need them to get by. You should have them, and I do want them, and I do have them. But you don't need them in the same regard. Money was a non-negotiable. So I went about getting it as quickly as I could. Again, we're talking about full weeks sacrificed. I didn't care. I did not care. No social connection. It felt very isolating. I didn't care. Because we had nothing else to do. There was nothing else more important than making it at that stage, or making it, or bringing a start to it. Now, I'm coming near to a position where I've got choices again. And what I mean by that is this. Look, I'm not going to lie, rightly or wrongly, I can quit my job. If I really don't like it, or if I have a bad day, or I could just quit on the spot. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm going to quit. I've got a plan. I've got savings. I've got an income. To be honest, I will probably cover my entire living expenses for the next 2 years in 3-4 months if I'm lucky. Or if I'm not even if I'm lucky, if I'm going at the current pace. So I could quit. Or I could spend an entire year searching for another job, right? I can do whatever I want in that front. I've got cash to invest, I've got cash to spend, and my options are opening up. So obviously what comes with that is new lifestyle opportunities, i.e. taking that extra cash that you've now got and investing it into new businesses and developing those. Or maybe moving abroad, or maybe just travelling. There's all these things that you can now do or think about at the very least. And I don't know, it just feels like a very, very different period. This has been 2 months of just trying hard. Yeah, I've still got a long way to go. No, I'm not making the money that I want. Yes, I've got a lot of stuff that I need to improve still. But at the same time, that was a stressful time. And that guy at the start didn't even know what he was in for. And I feel like this, maybe I'm going all spiritual, maybe I'm going all religious, I don't know. I don't know. But I feel like the universe or God or whatever you want to say saw how, again, complacent that guy had gotten and decided to just teach him a lesson. That guy needed a reality check, and you know what? He got one. He got one. He got a big one. Yeah, really. So I'm not regretful. I'm not regretful at all. If I hadn't have had that experience and lived what I lived, I'd have been the same guy. I'd have probably been living like, well, in an unsustainable lifestyle. But everything changed at once, and it's just funny. Now I know as an adult, properly, how fast a position of security can change, right? You could lose your job, and if you lose your job, you might not be able to cover the bills or the mortgage or the car, and you might lose your friends because your friends are at work and all these sorts of... Now, some of those things are, if you're losing your friends just from losing your job, maybe you've not got the best friends. But it's just an example of things that can happen, and this is a real world. I know a lot of you guys will know this, but like I say, diary entry for me rather than perhaps a video for you. If you enjoy it, that's great, but more a diary entry. Because I look back on that video, I was watching it last night, and I didn't even realise. It's so funny looking back. I didn't even realise that I filmed that video like less than 20 days before I had the biggest stress that I've had in my entire life. Funny, really. Funny. The universe teaches you what you need to know. But at the same time, not implicitly true. Because I could have seen the challenge that I saw, and enough people, to be honest, would have just seen that given up, office job, 40 years of misery thinking about what could be. Because I've done so much in 2 months, I've learnt from my adult life, the remainder of it, that if you put your mind to it, stuff can happen. If you put your all to it, and this is the thing, people, including me in my earlier videos, not since the 2 months, but before that, I spoke about giving it effort, giving it hard work. Bro didn't know what effort was, right? If you put your all into it, your genuine 100%, it becomes increasingly unlikely that you're going to fail. So, there we go. Anyway, I've spent about 35 minutes speaking to the camera now on just one video. But like I say, this is just me explaining a little bit more about my life story, my recent position, and what's led me to where I am. Now, as I say, there's a lot more stuff going on, and fortunately for me, I'm meeting new people. I'm getting a lot more new friends who do live in the same city as I do permanently, and obviously getting the money up. Now I've got a nice car due to the abundance mindset, or at least I think it's a nice car. Some people might think it's just too old. I'm happy with a lot of stuff. I've got a lot to go on to improve, but things are getting, for me, actually significantly better, and this is just the beginning of the plan. This is a plan. I came out with orchestrated action, and it's going to carry on. If we're coming up to 10 grand a month, I want to see 20. If we're coming up to 20, I want to see 30 or 40. And again, if I get at least, maybe for you guys it's different, 20 or 30,000 pounds a month, which sounds astronomically stupid to a lot of you people, and I'm not saying that to be rude or condescending, but I know a lot of you people, and a lot of people out there full stop, cannot even comprehend making 20 or 30,000 pounds. And at the minute I can't, but I can see it as a goal. If I had that much money, whether I lived in the UK, US, Dubai, Thailand, life would be just easy. I'd have everything that I wanted, and a lot of people give up on that goal because of how difficult it is. There's still going to be months and even weeks, or days or even weeks or even months ahead of not seeing anyone, not speaking to people, eating cheap food, not going out, not doing the things that I want to do. That's okay. That's okay. I'm accepting it because this is life, and 2 months, 3 months has brought me so much in terms of knowledge, so much in terms of money, so much in terms of connection, so much in terms of experiences, that to do this for a year or two might seem extremely daunting and isolating. But you know what? You know what, guys? It's the only option, for me at least. Maybe for you guys it's not, but for me this is the only way I can think about even beginning to make it.